with presenter Jay Anarelli from Integrated Field Solutions. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is in listen-only mode, so if you have questions, please type them into the questions box on the screen and we will address them at the end of the session. If you need to step away, please do not put your phone on hold. If you have hold music, it will play for all the attendees and you are already muted. This webinar will be recorded and we will email out a copy to everyone within a few days. I will now turn it over to you, Jay.
Thank you. Hello, hi, my name is Jay from Integrated Field Solutions. Today I'm going to review how to extend the functionality of your Sage solution to the field and specifically talk about some of the integration points between a field solution and your Sage software and how that can benefit your organization. I'm going to go through a few slides here. And first we're going to talk about challenges facing service contractors. How do we look up information? What type of information we can push back into Sage remotely? Go over a few features and then integration points. So talk a little bit about the challenges facing service contractors. Give you a little background about myself. Personally, I worked for a family mechanical contractor for about 15 years before I started Integrated Field Solutions back in 2007. And we had about 60 technicians on the field, and we had the issue with the paper shuffle where every Monday morning we'd have 50, 60 technicians drop off their paperwork. They'd have 30 or 40 carbon copy pieces of paper that someone would then need to sort, filter, and then manually key into Sage so that we could produce invoices, process payroll, and do everything we need to do to basically get paid from the client. So that was very cumbersome. It was a very daunting task, and there was an army of people in the office doing that. So what we decided to do was build a solution from scratch to solve that problem initially. And when we started to solve that problem, we decided, or as time went on, we kept on enhancing the solution, building some communication functionality in addition to just solving the paperwork. And I'll talk a little bit about those communication pieces in a moment. But from a communication standpoint, I'll talk about that now. So some of the issues that technicians have in the field is that there's not a lot of accountability. The dispatchers typically would call them with their assignments, or they'd fax them out to the technicians, and that created a lot of challenges within the workforce. What we first did to solve these problems was to give everybody BlackBerries or smartphones and start to email out those assignments. And that's a big step up from just the paper process. So moving from the paper process to just basic email using Outlook and a BlackBerry or a smartphone, if you're not going to go with the mobile solution, I highly recommend at least automating your organization to the point at which you're using email to dispatch your technicians and have them report back what they're doing. And then have your service coordinators and dispatchers update the information within either service management for 300 or service receivables for 100. But to take that to the next level, communication can be even enhanced greater if all of those emails are being stored against the work order or service order within your Sage solution. For instance, when your dispatcher sends a directive out to a technician, they could say, make sure you're on site at 3 a.m., the client's expecting you. Well, that's a little bit out of the ordinary. Now, just having a dispatcher send an email to a technician, that's great, but it's not really rock solid. It's even better if that email message, as it's being sent to the technician, is stored as a note against the work order within Sage. And that allows not just that dispatcher and that technician in the field to see what's going on, but that allows all stakeholders to see what's going on. So if that dispatcher is out sick the next day, the backup dispatcher or the service manager can still hold that technician accountable if they didn't show up on site at 3 a.m. And they can see those notes within service management and not have to go through that dispatcher's email to find that note. We've also solved for the dreaded not to exceed philosophy that many of facility management companies and or your clients may have. I know a trend today is when they dispatch you on a work order, they say, well, you can come out and fix the alarm system, but if it's going to cost more than $250, you need to provide a detailed quote. And we have assisted some of our clients with automating or helping to further automate that process. What we found was technicians would, tear up a piece of cardboard paper, write down what needed to be repaired, and pass that into the office, and that wasn't an efficient way of turning around quotes fast enough for many of our clients. We'll also talk about how sharing information can help you deal with the IVR phone systems. If some clients are dealing with Corrigo or with FM facility maintenance or the QSIs of the world, some of the intermediaries or property management firms, many of them now in a growing trend in the industry is to have your technicians, while they're on site, call in using the client's phone to check in and then check out. And if they don't have that information at their fingertips and it takes them 20 minutes to call the office to get the proper information, your organization is going to miss out on billable time. We'll also obviously talk about invoicing quickly. Let's go on to the other slides. As far as looking up information, so it's very useful to have a mobile field service solution that allows technicians to look up notes, equipment information, a history. So, and here's a perfect example. Let's say you're a mechanical contractor, and it's summertime right now. It's 95 degrees outside, and you had a technician that worked at a location, and they repaired a compressor today, and to get the AC back up and running. Let's say now it's 9 o'clock at night, and your on-call technician gets a call. It is extremely efficient to allow that on-call technician, or it helps the service process to let that on-call technician see that history in real time. Before, when you had a paper environment where they were writing everything out on paper, none of that information was available until that technician passed in that paperwork and entered it into the system. Now, that technician can simply log onto their mobile device, look up the service site, and drill in and see who was there, what they did. And in a lot of cases, you can hedge off callbacks and say, hey, maybe we were out there, we worked on your unit today, but we actually sent you a quote and you didn't approve the quote. There's a great way for you to cut down on a callback and initiate an additional sales opportunity with the client. So as far as pushing back data remotely into Sage or either 100 or 300, there's some core fields that you want to be able to update from the field that really help cut down on some of the headaches in the office. Those include tracking, green light, red light, start, stop, complete, tracking the status in real time of that call that technician's on. We also have the ability to update the work order record and keep track of all of the notes, and we even divide those notes between what you're okay with your client seeing and what's internal, only for your eyes only or only for your employees only. And there's also the concept of labor. This is a huge productivity boost, being able to capture both billable hours and payroll hours. And in many situations, the service industry is very dynamic. You have some organizations that pay their employees a 4-hour minimum for an overtime call, or you have some clients who have a 2-hour minimum charge to the client but may only pay their technician for an hour. So you need to look for a mobile solution that can adapt and solve for those issues around payroll. Then you have every state that has their own payroll specifics around when you calculate overtime or how you need to compensate your employees. So you want to make sure that your mobile solution is very flexible when it comes to managing payroll. And we want to be able to have insight into what's available in our warehouses. If a technician needs a filter dryer or if they need a particular part, do they have access to see where all the parts are throughout their whole entire organization, or can they only see what's available in their truck? I always think it's beneficial to let the technician see if there's especially an expensive part, available somewhere else within the organization so that you don't have to go out and repurchase that item. And you can deplete your inventory and cut down on inventory expense. Talk a little bit about mobile devices. This is always a hot topic we get. And what's the best? Is Apple the best because it's it's fancy, it's clean cut? Personally, from a mobile standpoint perspective, a couple things I want to point out. I always think that the largest screen you can have and a device that has built-in, a built-in Verizon card or Sprint or AT&T card, whatever the case may be, that's the best way to go. Because there's been studies that have proven that a larger screen adds more value and increases productivity. Most mobile solutions do work on, including ours, work on a smartphone like an Android-based phone or an iPhone. And that's fine. You can do whatever you need to do. But I always like to point out, whether you're going with a mobile solution or not, there's a tremendous amount of value going with a device with a lot of screen real estate. And some of the examples may be, let's say you're working on a very technical piece of equipment and you need to instantaneously forward a wiring diagram to that technician via email from the manufacturer, and they need that to troubleshoot. If you don't have that large screen, it's going to make that technician's job very difficult. Or they're going to have to go find a fax machine, which eats up valuable payroll time. And we all know that payroll is probably one of your highest cost items on your income sheet, on one of your highest expenses within your organization. I also do prefer a tablet-based device. They're on instantaneously. The batteries last for 8 to 10 hours. They're very durable because there's no moving parts, and they take 5 seconds to boot up. It's not like a laptop where you have to open up, start up Windows, wait 2 minutes, and then the battery dies after 30 minutes. There's a lot of flexibility with having a tablet in the field as a tool. It's just another tool for your technician to have in the field. Talk a little bit about our solution. I want to try to make this not too salesy, but I will talk about the integration points and talk about how a mobile solution can extend the functionality of service receivables or within 100 or service management within 300. So today, just a high level, our solution integrates with both 300 and 100. I'll probably talk in terminology of, and when I'll show a few screens, it'll mostly be around 300. But the feature sets, the look and feel, the basic concepts are the same for both solutions. There's a few fields in both solutions that are different, but the overall workflow is the same. So the tech tool is the device used in the field, or the solution that's used in the field by the service technician, or it can be used in the office by service coordinators, dispatchers, management team, depending on what you're trying to get out of a solution. And there's so basically we help automate the process with work orders. We automate the workflow with custom forms, and a custom form could be anything from a daily field report to a maintenance checklist, preventative maintenance checklist. It could be an expense report, anything you'd like it to be. We also have a vendor portal, whereas if you have to dish out work orders to subcontractors and have them upload their invoices, we can help accommodate that and cut down on managing the expense of the office, managing vendors. We have a dispatching board, and we have a high-level, kind of like a financial dashboard specific to service. And incorporated throughout the whole entire solution is both document management and email notification. We think those are very important. Document management, think of it as an attachment. And we have the ability to attach documents, whether it's a picture, a wiring diagram, or a signed service ticket from the client at the work order level, at the equipment level, at the quote level, and at the customer level. And that's a great way to share information throughout your organization. Now, there's a few differences between 300 and 100. Within 300 service management, Sage does not support attachments, so we manage that for Sage. On the 100 side, we have the ability to push all of those attachments back in to service receivables within 100. So you're able to pull up those attachments directly from the 100 solution. And as far as email notification goes, that's very broad in scope. So an email notification could be anything from technician enters his resolution. Maybe he says, "I replaced the wires in the building," and we could have that note go to one or multiple people within your organization as a quick little status update to cut down on a phone call to the office. Or we could have an email notification every time one of your technicians generates a purchase order to Home Depot. And that could go right to the purchasing agent so they can catch them doing something they might not, they have some oversight and checks and balances in place for purchasing. Same thing with sending attachments to clients or generating a work order. So as far as extending the functionality of the solution, I always like to think that a deeply integrated solution, whether it's our solution with Sage or other solutions that tie into service management, go a long way. So at IFS Core, we have some third-party integrations. One specifically is with Bing Maps. So we're able to display work order locations on a map based on their address or the employee or the status where the employee is right now. We also have some third-party integrations to Fleetmatics and Fleetronics for fleet tracking purposes if you want to track the vehicles, and we can display those on a map. And we also have some other third-party integrations, and this is something we're really doubling down on in the next year. One right now is tie-in with Corrigo. Corrigo is similar to maybe Service Channel or an FM facility maintenance. So any time Marriott Hotel, who uses Corrigo, that facility manager opens a work order, we have the ability to automatically open up a work order within Sage. So that's a big productivity boost within your office if your service coordinators or client service specialists no longer have to generate a work order manually. So with that said, I'm going to, before I get to the Q&A, I'll kind of jump into the solution, unless there's any questions before I start, or should I just jump right into the solution?
We have no questions so far. If you do have a question, please type it into the questions box on the screen.
Okay.
But right now, there's nothing, so I think you can go ahead.
Okay, great. All right, so today I'm going to kind of go through high level some of the integration points and how the basic flow of the solution and how that can basically increase productivity. And I have both Sage up over here, and I'm going to show Sage 300 today, and I have the tech tool up so I can show you that real-time integration and how that flows. So everything that we do, we try to put it in layman's terms. We try to make that technician or your organization comfortable with the way it operates. Meaning we try to correlate everything to a piece of paper. So if I'm a technician, I probably wouldn't see the service dashboard, but I would be able to see the assignments page here. So the assignments page, it's my weekly time card. So I'm a technician in the field. This is what I see. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This is the days of the week. I'm able to see the work orders that are assigned to me on the dispatch board. Now, we also have some rules. You might say to me, well, I don't want our technicians to see what's assigned to them for this afternoon because the job may change. So we have a lot of work rules that allow you to customize the solution to the way you operate. So maybe you only want them to see one work order at a time. We have the ability to easily facilitate that. So if we go down to Thursday, we have many work orders here. I just have a few examples throughout the solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of run through, hey, what if it's Thursday night and I'm a technician, and what if Walmart calls up and says they want to place a service call? How do I do that and automate that process? So in order to do that, you can allow your technician to generate a work order from the field if you enable that functionality. So we'll go ahead and generate that work order. And this brings us to the service site lookup. And when we search for a site, we can type in the name of the client. So let's type in TAR for target. Or we can start typing in the address. We're pretty flexible. You can search by address or by name or a combination of the both. We have one client with like 100 Starbucks in New York City, in Manhattan. It's really important they have a really strong feature set so that the technicians don't generate a work order for the improper location. So I'm just going to search for Walmart here. And so here's the site. So here we pull in the full site details, all your problem codes. Everything's deeply integrated. We use everything that's established within service management. There's no setting up a separate database. We're actually, the way this field service solution works, we use the whole entire service management database in real time. That is the database of records. There's no copying of the database. So it's really a plug-and-play solution. So let's go ahead and I'll just leave the problem code the way it is. And this is test work order. So go ahead and generate a work order. And this is just generated a work order in real time within Sage. Now, as you look at the screen, we have all these buttons here. I have buttons everywhere. I have everything turned on for the sake of the demo. But when you go in to set up a user here, and I'll log into myself here, we have the ability to streamline what they can do. So, for instance, under roles here, if you're just a technician and you only want them to see their weekly time card and process work orders, they'd only have a technician checked off. If that technician has other feature sets available, or if you're somebody in the office that needs to finalize and send a proposal off to a client, you might have office staff checked off. And then at the individual user level, you can define which of your technicians can issue a purchase order to Home Depot. And you can even set limits on the amount of money they're allowed to spend on a purchase order. So it's highly customizable at the individual user level. You can even allow them to generate a new service location if you're a residential contractor and it's a new client that you want to collect COD on. So I'm going to go back to my weekly time card here. Now let's go back down to Thursday. And let's go find that call for Walmart for Accordant. So here's that work order we generated. And I'm going to go ahead and update this work order real quick. And then I'm going to jump into Sage 300 Service Management and show you all those entries. Let's go to that work order. Let's go ahead and generate a new PO. We'll see it's to Home Depot. So we found we need to pick up some parts. Actually do it to United Air Specialties. I'll create that purchase order. And then we'll record what we're getting. Let's say we're getting some wire. Now, when we always advise our clients is when they're allowing their technicians to enter items here, have them enter items, but have them take a picture of that receipt, of that packing slip, and attach it to the work order so you have that. You no longer have to collect that paper trail anymore. So we can go back to the, there's the PO number, and here's the work order it's associated within Sage. So let's go back to the work order detail page. So I'm back on this work order detail page here. And to clarify, I like to call this your service ticket. This kind of replaces that carbon copy 2- or 3-page form that your technicians would fill out on site and then have the client sign. So this is where the technician is doing all their work now on the tablet while they're at the client site billing on $100 an hour. Because if the old way was doing it, they were still doing this. They were just writing it down on paper, but you couldn't charge the client for your bookkeeper's time to enter the data when the paperwork got back into the office. Here, your technicians are billing $100 an hour to the client while they're filling out this form. So we entered a purchase order here to United Air Specialties. If you already had a purchase order generated within the system, the technician can go and see who it was for and what they needed to pick up. We also display some useful information. So if you have location notes stored within the Sage solution, we display those for the client. At the top right-hand side of the screen, I won't get into too much detail, but we have the ability to manage the assignment, meaning start, stop, complete, travel, what are we doing. We can do all of that directly from the tech tool, and that will update the dispatch board in both 100 and 300. Let's say it's our first time at Walmart, and you want the technician to capture the equipment information, the make, model, and serial number, they can go ahead and populate the your service site client equipment here. They can generate a new piece of client equipment. They can put the model number in, the serial number. They can look at other, set it at 30 degrees, whatever the case may be. And we even support barcode scanning. We can save that equipment. Or we can just simply tag a piece of equipment to the work order. So I'm tagging that piece of equipment, this air conditioner, to the work order. So that's now tagged within the service module. Moving on, now we have the final piece of the workflow, and it's adding notes, flat rate items, if you're residential contractors. I'm going to skip over that, parts, and then adding reports. So let's go ahead and add a note. So we have, in both of our solutions, we have the concept of the client viewable note, customer viewable note, and we have below on the second box the internal note. This is for internal messaging, or to say something not so nice about that client, or to say don't come back to this client. We also support canned responses to cut down on the typing of your technicians, so you can have consistent messages to the clients. So there's the canned response for that the customer can see, and we can also, the technician can also edit this, but it's just a great way to keep consistent messages to the client. I'll just add a few more comments there. And then we have office notes. So office notes are, this is what they're usually used for. So hey, I was on this call, it was 10 at night. I don't want to call my dispatcher because I don't want to wake them up, but I want to let them know, hey, this call is complete. I'm heading home. No need to return. Sorry, I can't spell that well. So the reason why I type this in is because this is pretty much an email I want to send, but I want to put it on the record as a note too, and I want to make sure my dispatcher and my supervisor get those notes so that I don't have to pick up the phone and call them at night or call them in the morning. It really helps keep the service department moving and really efficient at what they're doing. So those notes are now within Sage, and we can add as many notes as we want on the 300 product. 100 only supports one note for each, but you can modify those notes. Flat rate, if there was a flat rate item, we can look up here. Labor. Labor is very dynamic. It's very flexible. I'm not going to get into all the little details and bore you, but we could populate labor based on green light, red light, and automatically populate the time. Or if we needed to be more creative, let's say we had a 4-hour minimum, right, that we charge a client because it's overtime, but we only want to pay our employee for 2 hours. You have that ability to do that. Moving over to parts. So parts is made up of a few components: inventory, purchase order items, and miscellaneous items. So I won't get into manage inventory, but we have the ability to transfer inventory from stocking locations or look up inventory. But let's go ahead and inventory part here. So I'm going to look for a filter, let's say. So I'm typing in, if you notice, I'm typing in part of the description. Now I'm going to jump into the part number. So it's a very dynamic and easy, intuitive tool to use, especially when looking up parts. So I'm looking up all my 20 by 20 by 2 filters. I got two options, a pleated filter or a fiberglass. Let's go with pleated. And then I'm going to use 2 of them. Now, if you notice here, it's showing me my truck, and it shows me I'm negative 41. So I'm using parts that I don't really have. But we have the ability, if you want to turn that feature on, to show all of your employees where all of those filters are throughout the whole entire organization, assuming that's set up within your Sage software. So go ahead and add those items to the register in 300 or the invoice within 100. And we have the ability over here to add miscellaneous items. Maybe you have some tolls that they paid, and you want to make sure it gets charged back to the client. So we can go ahead and do that. We can enter $5 for those tolls. This could be anything. This could be a part that wasn't stored as inventory that you want to add. Maybe use some cleaning solution. You can add anything you want on the miscellaneous items so that you can make sure it gets billed to the client. So going through the workflow again, so we completed our notes, our labor, our parts. Now we go over to reports. So we have 2 types of reports. We have our service report, and this is that document that the client's going to sign and to acknowledge work was done, and that's basically when UPS comes and says sign here, and I'll get into that in one moment. But we also have a tool that's called custom forms, which is very powerful. Custom forms is the ability to have a preventative maintenance checklist, or it could be an expense report, commissioning form, safety checklist, anything. You can build any type, design, build, and publish any type of form you want for your employees to use in the field. So let's say I'm doing a PM inspection here, and I want my technician, before they're complete with a call, to do this checklist. So we can set a rule within our solution that says, do not let the technicians complete the call until they fill this form out. So we have a lot of those rules that force your field employees to follow procedures, or they basically can't get paid. So we automatically pulled in all the work order details here. When you build forms, you have the ability to define, is it a drop-down? How many fields do you want on the drop-down? What do those fields say? You can have check boxes. You can have one-line forms. These are just these are unformatted questions. But you can define all of these. I'm just going to go through. You can capture signatures on the form. We can come down here. If you look at the red stars, you can force them to fill these out, or you won't let them complete the form on the red stars. So you can make sure you're getting the information you need for a survey. If you're doing a site survey, just going through and updating a few items here. And let's go ahead and submit that form. So once that form's submitted, it's now available under content. And think of content as attachments. We should probably rename it. And I can see that that form was completed on July 10th, and I can go in and take a look at that form. A lot of our sprinkler companies and fire alarm companies love these forms because they have to do monthly inspections of the fire extinguishers. And I can download that as a PDF. I can email that. There's a lot of flexibility with the forms. So that's a custom form. But now I need to go ahead and I need to capture the customer signature because we need to go to the next call. How do we do that? So let's go ahead and create the service report. So we call it a service report. Through our solution, you can actually rename it to service invoice or whatever you'd like. We have the logo here. That could be your logo. Everything that you see where it says IFS, that's all branded to your organization, and you can manage that. You can manage this custom message up here. But we're basically filling out the form for the technician. We're pulling in all the information, the client information, the piece of equipment they worked on. Here's that custom reviewable note that displays for them. Now, this form has a lot of features, or shall I say, a lot of switches. So I can turn off or hide. I can hide all the pricing if you want to. I can hide the whole entire parts and labor section. We could show just the notes here. We can hide description. So I have everything turned on, but this form is highly customizable because we know that all of our clients have different requirements. We pull in the email address associated with the service site, or you can add another one here, and then we can go ahead and capture the client signature. We can also have a second signature block for the technician, and you can also modify this form to add your contract language or legal jargon. But let's go ahead and accept it. And then that custom form I built, since I said that PM checklist was custom reviewable, I want to also send an email to the client with that form. And let me show you. So they're receiving a nice little, that's how we deliver the form. They're receiving a nice, clean formatted email that says, thank you for your service. This is XYZ contracting firm, and here are your attachments. Let's go to content. So here's a service ticket. Show you what it looks like. It's a PDF. It's immediately available to the office. We actually can automatically email a copy of this to a predefined person within the office once it's generated. And this is pretty much the same look and feel for both 100 and 300. A few other things. Let's say I'm here and I need to take a picture of something, and you're on your iPad or your BlackBerry or whatever you're on, and when you hit the browse button on a mobile device, you can, maybe you want to call this before picture. So we have a bunch of roofing contractors, and they take pictures all the time. So they take a before picture and an after picture. And when they hit browse, it says, do you want to take a picture? You hit yes, 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 and you go from there. So I'll just add a picture here. Go ahead and add that content. So now that picture is available immediately to your stakeholders in the office. And this is extremely useful to document work that was completed, or maybe you found an issue that could be an upsell opportunity for a new sales opportunity. But as you see, so there's a picture. It's immediately available. It's me and my daughter. So we have all that functionality built in. So now I'm going to talk about, going back to my slides. I won't flip back over, but that's the core workflow for a technician. And sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. We have our labor there. So if I go back to my assignments page here, okay, we have the ability to go down and see where's Walmart. It's right here. Where's the one for Accordant? So this is the one we worked on. I can see that my labor hours are here on my time card. We have the total labor hours for the day, and we total them up for the technician at the end of the week. And we have a way for them to digitally submit those time cards to the office so that there's no more windshield time every Monday morning with your technicians driving into the office to drop off paperwork. So that's a huge productivity boost right there. Now, I'd like to show you some of the other information that we can get out of the system. I'm going to click on Target Warehouse. So what if I'm a technician, and I have a lot of data with Target, but what if I'm a technician and I want to see who was here last week, or we have this one piece of equipment that we've had 20 callbacks on, and I need to see what's going on. So as a technician, I can drill into this site. So this is for one address. I can see my work order history. I can drill into any work order. But let's take it a step further. Let's look at equipment. And I know that I have this main office piece of equipment here that's an issue. So let's drill into this piece of equipment and show you what we can do. So I have the ability to expose the make, model, and serial number. But what's important is now we're narrowing down the work orders. We're only showing you the work orders associated with this one carrier rooftop unit. So you can then drill in and see how many pounds of refrigerant did they put into it, what are they doing. We can also see notes. So you can allow your technicians or the office staff to add notes at the equipment level. And these notes are all stored within Sage, not within our system. But it's a great way to store information. Like I know when I used to be in the field, I didn't actually know how to fix anything. My father would say I didn't know the working end of a screwdriver. But I know I go and I look at the side of all these big pieces of equipment, and I see these notes like left a spare filter dryer or something in the blower compartment. That to me is all proprietary information for your customer, for your company. Why write that on the side of a piece of equipment in black magic marker so that your competition can see it? So this is a great place to store all that confidential information. Under content here, so content's also everything that has to do with this piece of equipment, but I mean you can store a picture of the equipment, maybe a wiring diagram, anything that's useful for this one particular model and serial number. And a lot of our larger contractors, or the guy, I don't want to say larger, the contractors working on sophisticated systems. Maybe this is an alarm panel, and you have a document on how to program it, or the access codes, or a wiring diagram specific to this alarm panel. It's a great way to store that information and share it with all the stakeholders. So that's looking up information. Now, the final part, I only got 20 minutes left, so I'm going to spend about 5 minutes talking about how do we solve the issue in the industry known as the not to exceed, the dreaded not to exceed. Client calls you up and says, hey, if you go out and you find something wrong, great, my internet's bothering me. So we'll give it a second. So we have this issue in the industry where clients call up and say, come out and fix the air conditioner, but if it's more than $300 or $500, we need a proposal to replace. And a lot of our clients struggle with managing the high volume of proposals and quickly turning them around to their clients. So I'm going to, once my browser unfreezes, let me open up another one. Hold on a second here. I hope my internet didn't go down. I'm going to go ahead and, hold on a second. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah, we can still see it, Jay.
All right, just give me a second here.
Really good stuff.
All right. Thanks, appreciate it. All right, so it's working now. All right. So I'm going to jump in, and I'll take about 5 minutes to go through the how we solve for quotes, and then I'll have some Q&A, and we can go from there. So let's say we're at Walmart. Now, we'll use Target. We like Target, right? Better than Walmart. So we're at Target. Let's say and I'm going to use the example of, my background's in HVAC, so I'll use the example that an HVAC contractor comes across, but the same holds true for plumbers, electricians, fire suppression companies. Anytime you go out and the client says, hey, I need a detailed quote, please give me some more feedback. So when the technician's on site, well, we have the ability to let them generate a new quote from the field. And this is basically them saying to the office or providing all the information that's required for that proposal. Think of it as we're pulling the information out of that technician that we need because we know it's difficult. We know they want to rip off a piece of paper and hand it in a week later. That doesn't work in today's competitive marketplace. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say this is for a compressor replacement. We have the technician comments here. He might say it's a large 10 horsepower compressor. Need crane and 2 helpers. So that we're basically asking them, spill your guts. Tell me everything we need to know so I have a good sense of what's going on. As a technician, we can tag the asset or the piece of the client equipment that needs to be repaired. So when a month later, when Target calls you up and says, go ahead and move forward with that proposal, you have everything at your fingertips, the proper model and serial number. Also, I always say, if you're not too busy, let your technicians call the suppliers and hunt down the pricing on the material. Because as long as they're on the customer's site, running the clock, they're billing like an attorney. They're billing $120 an hour to the client. Let them do that. Your sales guys in the office can't charge the clients for that time. So let's say it's to call the supplier, compressor in stock, and it's $500. By the way, it's model number 123. So they have that ability. They can also go over to the estimate here, and they can suggest the number of hours for this repair or for this proposal. I'm just going to jump ahead here. And then they can also provide contact. And we also tag the original work order that provided this opportunity so that we can track the history. We can always say, hey, was this an emergency service call that generated a sales opportunity, or were we on a pre-planned preventative maintenance inspection? Let's go ahead and save this quote. When we save the quote, I didn't do it, but we have the ability to automatically fire off an email to your salesperson or quote specialist in your office so that they immediately know there's a new quote for them to work on. Now, 2 things can happen here. You can allow your technicians to finish the quote. We typically see that happening in the residential market. Or what we typically see in the commercial market is this is the point at which the technician hands off a quote to your office. And somebody in the office, like a service manager or a sales manager, would take over and finalize it. Also, I didn't point out, but the technician can take pictures and add pictures of that compressor that blew up. So anyways, let's assume that I'm somebody in the office, okay, and I go and I find the quote. They can click on the link in their email to the quote, or they can come over here. And when they're here on the quote tool, they can see all the quotes. They can filter by status, in progress, approved, rejected, management review. We have all these statuses. Many of these came from our clients at their request. Or we can filter by salesperson, or we can just search by the quote ID. But if you look here, we're keeping track of that technician, right, that generated that sales opportunity, and we're keeping track of the salesperson that sent the quote out. We can actually export that list to Excel, and you can say, have a nice sit-down with your technicians. Hey, how come you only generated 2 quotes this month, and everybody else is generating 10 quotes on average? And really identify, the underperformers or reward the overperformers. But let's go ahead and search for that quote. So I'm here. This is the quote I generated. Looks like nobody's picked it up yet. Let's go ahead and edit this quote. So I'm on the edit quote screen, and I can see everything that technician provided to me. You can see the equipment we're working on. I'm just going to cut and paste some information here to add to make it look nice. Let's go ahead and save that page here. This down here this is the customer viewable note. This is what's going to print out on the proposal we send to the client. Let's go over to the estimate. Now, this is a key integration point. First, I'm going to tag the salesperson. But if you look over here, we're pulling in $99 an hour. So what we're doing is we're using what you have predefined within Sage. So we're going into service management. We're looking at Target Warehouse, and we're using the billing rate sheets for that client that you already have established for both labor and markups. So let's go ahead and let's save that. 20 hours. And I'm going to go ahead, I got to add some items to the assembly here. So let's go ahead and add that compressor for $500. And I'm going to mark it up based off the rate sheet. But let's go ahead and add some R22 refrigerant. Let's say we have 20 pounds and it's $1.50. But I want to override the markup. I want to mark it up 90%. And then we have a crane charge. And it's $500 for that. But I want to just sell it at $600. So I can do that. So it's very flexible in how you can compile the quote. I can drag and drop to change the order of items. But let's go ahead and view the quote. Let's move, running out of time. Whoops. I hit the wrong button. Let's go back. Let's view the quote. All right, nice financial overview, nice 40% margin. Let's go to print view. Same look and feel as that service ticket. We try to keep things consistent. This is the client. This is the salesperson and the contact at the client's location. The piece of equipment that's being replaced. The customer viewable note, the story, basically what we're doing. You're probably going to say to me, I don't want the customer to see 20 hours at $99 an hour. That's fine. We'll make this a lump sum in a second here. All right, this is what I want them to see, and I want to hide, let's hide the crane charge too. So this is what I want them to see. You see that? Let's go ahead and save this as a PDF. Now you have the ability to go ahead and, it's now a piece of content here. You can email it through our solution or you can email it through Outlook. I'll show you what it looks like. There's your proposal, nice and clean. Client can sign it and send it back. We also have the ability to capture a signature in the field if you want to. Now it's been approved. Now you can simply push the Generate Work Order button, and that generates a work order within Service Management. And we have the ability to change the problem code and call type. Let's go ahead and generate the work order within Service. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll over and I'm going to show you Service Management. Let's see all the updates we made to those work orders. So let's go to View. Let's go to Work Orders. So here's the work order for Walmart, and I know this is small, so I'll try to go slow. But here's the work order that we generated from the tech tool as a hypothetical. We said, hey, let's assume it's 9 o'clock at night, nobody's in the office, I'm a technician, I need to generate a work order. This is that work order we generated. We tagged it to this piece of equipment here. I can go to the register. I can see all those register items we have. It's all prepped, ready to bill. Everything's mocked up based off your rate sheets. Everything follows the hierarchy for the accounting. I can go to purchase orders. I can see that register item for the purchase order that was generated by that technician in the field. I can go over to my notes. We have that custom reviewable note here, and we have the non-custom reviewable note. So everything's available there. And here's that quoted work order that we opened up from the tech tool. This is a quote that we generated in the tech tool and then generated a work order. So here's, I put in compressor replacement as description. If I go to the estimate, the 20 hours I put in for the estimate are there. The miscellaneous cost is there. Under notes, you can see all the notes that the technician generated at the sales opportunity level. You can track the whole entire story. It's very clean and easy. Basically, there's no data entry within Service Management. Everything's done from our interface to streamline the process. So that, in a nutshell, that's the core workflows for both the quote tool, tech tool, and from a technician perspective, and how they integrate back into Service Management. We have dashboards, dispatch screens, a lot of other things. I don't really have a lot of time to go through those today. But is there any questions with the core functionality we went through today?
Right now there's no questions.
Okay.
If you have any questions, please type them in the questions box.
Okay.
Doesn't look like we have anything.
Okay, great. So let me go to the last slide, I guess. So if anybody has any more information, if you just need help, general questions about the service industry, or best practices, even if you're not even interested in our tool, and we don't have a solution to help solve your problem, more than happy to reach out to us, and we'll try to steer you in the right direction. And my information is jay@ifscore.com, or you can reach out to one of your contacts at Accordant, and we'd be more than happy to schedule another call and follow up with any any questions you may have about our solution or anything else we can help you with.
All this information will be included in the follow-up email with the recording as well. We want to thank you all again for attending today's Lunch and Learn session. We will email out the presentation within a day. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.